This video was produced by The Top Cut. Be sure to check out thetopcut.net, your home for Pokemon TCG, tournament coverage, professional game analysis, and interviews with the best players in the world. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back, guys, to Game 2 between Nick Capobianco and Dylan Bryan in the top 4 of the Pennsylvania Regional Championships for the Pokemon TCG. I'm Crimz, and with me is Kyle Pooka Sucevich, and here we go.
Yeah, first game we saw Nick with an unusual deck, his Kira Mewtwo Terrakion deck, pull off a pretty convincing win, and
Wait.
with his dual balls.
Here we go.
His Michael Pramelot dual balls really coming in handy here. 2 heads every time. And Dylan did not play a supporter his first turn, so that's kind of ugly.
Yeah, Dylan did get to go first because he lost game 1, played an energy, and passed, which we kind of saw from his opponent in game 2 of top 8. But here we go. We see Nick come out with his trusty dual ball, getting his trusty double heads, and not finding a Smeargle, or at least not going for it, one or the other. So that's got to mean something. Either A, his hand's amazing, or B, the Smeargle's prized. So we see a Kira EX and a Terrakion. He attaches a double colorless, or a Prism Energy, actually, to the Kira EX, and he plays Professor Oak's New Theory. So that's a very solid start. He decides not to attach to the active because he's afraid of it getting damaged, and he wants his opponent to have to play Pokemon Catcher if he wants to get the first hit in on the Kira EX.
Yeah, I don't mind that play. I assume Nick plays a very high number of switches in his deck with all these high retreat Pokemon, probably 3 or even 4. So he'll probably run into a switch pretty easily, and he runs Super Scoop Up too, so I don't mind putting the energy on the benched Pokemon. And looks like he's going to have to pass, and it's all up to Dylan to really top deck something. He'll have an attack this turn, but he has no long-term options in his hand.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Dylan can actually pull off. Obviously, the fact that he has not been able to... yeah, there we go. There's that catcher on that Kirim. I like to see that play. If he's going to have to fight a Pokemon with energy, he already knows which one it is. Might as well start, bring the attack to it. And he benches his Mewtwo. The reason he didn't bench this Pokemon earlier is because there's no threat from his opponent's side. He knows his opponent can't really turn 1 no matter what he draws. So he wanted to hold the Mewtwo in his hand as long as possible. But here he's just going to bench it so that he can actually move some energy onto it with his Hurricane.
Oof, so that was a pretty big crushing hammer flip. I don't know if Dylan has the energy to follow up with another attacker. So any energy that Nick can remove from Dylan's field is going to be a pretty big deal. And now we're going to see if he can hit a double colorless. Here he goes for the Juniper. If he does, he'll be able to remove Dylan's double colorless with Frozen Wings, hit him for 60. If he doesn't, this is going to be a pretty big break for Dylan because, Nick's going to spend his second turn passing, but it looks like he got it.
See an EXP share onto the Terrakion, an EXP share onto the bench Kira EX, and I don't see a double colorless. What is that?
You see one now, yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, I see one now.
You got to brush up on your card art, buddy.
That's not the first time I've heard that. So the Tornadus is going to be taking 60 damage, and most importantly, it's going to be losing that double colorless. Yeah. That's a really big deal. I can't stress how big of a deal that is. And
the bigger deal, though, is Dylan top decked the supporter finally, so he will be back in this game.
Well, there it is. There's a switch, which is also really necessary here in order for Dylan to be able to keep up his attacks. If Dylan gets a double colors here, he's going to be able to knock out that Kirim, correct? Yep.
He just needs any energy. There's already 3 on the Kirim EX and 80 damage, so he just needs to do 100, and he'll take 2 prizes. And this is why Kirim EX really isn't that great. It's got a ton of hit points, but it doesn't do much damage. And is it really worth the 2 prizes you're going to give up just to discard a double colorless energy when something like Lost Remover could do the same thing? I don't really know. Maybe if Nick starts hitting Super Scoop Up, I'll be telling a different story. But right now, Kira EX is kind of underwhelming.
Well, the most important thing here also is that he doesn't have any basic energies in play. So the EXP shares are actually not doing anything at all.
Right.
Now, I know that Nick's dancing around with his fingers quite a bit, but it doesn't... I don't know if it means that he's a little bit nervous here because he knows that he's not in good shape at all. The fact that Dylan actually attached this energy just means that not only will Nick lose his only attacker, but he's going to have no energy in play. So this EXP share actually did nothing for him, and he's going to be activating this Kyurem EX with an EXP share, but with no way to actually attack.
And he actually benches a third one, so he plays a ton of these guys. And he attaches to his other Kyurem EX. I don't know at this point if that's a good idea because it's really not going to be that great of an attacker in this situation. There's no special energy on the field. There's just 2 grass, and it does not stack up well against Mewtwo at all. X-Ball is just a much better attack than anything Kyurem EX has. And I don't think you're going to win a battle between Kyurem and Mewtwo if you're on the Kyurem side.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't want to attach the energy to his Mewtwo. So maybe he just wants to attach it to the Pokemon with the highest hit points. That way he can just shaman the energy onto his own Mewtwo when he has the opportunity to knock out his opponent's attacking Mewtwo. So that's a lot of Mewtwo, but the point that I'm trying to make is that attaching the energy to his own Mewtwo right now is actually extremely dangerous. So he needs to attach the energy to something else. In this case, obviously, it's the Kyurem, but I'm sure he's going to want to, at some point, use his Shaman to be able to get a surprise knockout on his opponent's attacker.
Right, and I guess my comment is more in general of why I'm not a huge fan of Kyurem EX. It's just overall pretty underwhelming as an EX compared to Mewtwo, which I guess pretty much everything is underwhelming compared to Mewtwo. But
yeah, I was going to ask, what is it?
But it's just kind of showing here.
Yeah. So Dylan's in the driver's seat this game. Make no mistake about that. The fact that he's not relying on the double colorless energies like he did so heavily last game is really telling a new tale. This tale is basically saying, hey, look, Nick, congratulations, you can discard special energies. Too bad that actually doesn't matter. So not only do your crushing hammers have to play a huge role this game, but you need to hit them in multiples in order to really mess with me. So good luck, because I am taking a huge prize lead in the meantime.
And we are seeing another story here. While Nick is a pro at flipping heads on dual ball, Dylan is not. He just flipped 4 tails this turn on those. So really, luck is more in favor of Nick so far, but I would say the board advantage this game goes to Dylan at this point. And yeah, if you're Nick, you don't even want to crushing hammer the energy off the Mewtwo because you want to be able to knock it out with your own Mewtwo probably. So crushing hammer really not doing a whole lot. You probably won't even play him unless they go on to Pokemon like Tornadus over there.
That's correct. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens here. Obviously, Nick just has no board presence yet. The fact that he's had to attach a second basic energy to his Kyurem EX really shows how bad his deck can actually stall out against an aggressive start. Not that doesn't really fall victim to his attacks. So I'm not sure where to really go from here. I mean, like I mentioned, we know what his story is going to be, what he's going to try to pull off, which involves Shaman and a Mewtwo knockout. But I'm not really sure what else he can do in the meantime. He's just going to be falling so far behind. Just losing these Kyurems is 2 prizes each time. It's just not looking very good for him.
Yeah, now one of the things I never liked about the Terrakion EXP share deck was if you missed one energy drop or you missed one EXP share, the whole deck would just kind of fall apart. You would just stop being able to attack. Your aggression would come to a halt. And really, this is true of any deck featuring EXP share. And in this case, it's even compounded by the fact that he runs a ton of special energy. Those double colors and the prism. We see he didn't have any basic energy on his first attacker, so he couldn't save any of them with EXP share. And now he's just kind of on the back foot, rebuilding everything, and he's going to be falling way far behind before he can start to mount offense again. So this is a real big weakness of the decks with EXP share.
Yeah, how do you think the deck would actually fare against the other big deck in the format, the Zekrom Electric deck?
Well, it runs Terrakion. I'm sure this is kind of his main focus of the deck. I'm really not sure how it would go because of all this other stuff that he's added into the deck. Kyurem EX, I don't think is going to do too well against the Zekrom Electric deck. It might just come down to stuff like Super Scoop Up, if he can hit heads on those. I don't think Crushing Hammer plays too big of a role against Zekrom Electric. Maybe it could, but I'm sure it's not a great matchup, but he's at least got a shot just because he runs so many Terrakions.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is we we mentioned so many things, but we also mentioned that Kirim isn't really a big player in any of these matchups. This reminds me of a deck that I've always wanted to try, but I mean it would never be good. And I know that certain people have actually tried it, and it just hasn't worked very well. But what I'm trying to say is the Typhlosion's attack, which gets rid of gets rid of energies, and you combine it with Crushing Hammer and Lost Remover, and you kind of have this cute little nifty attack. But in reality, it actually doesn't do anything for your matchups. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're seeing here.
Well,
Nifty, but in
yeah.
reality, not so great.
In theory, you see, I can remove special energies with Frozen Wings, and I can remove basic energy with Crushing Hammer, and I'm just gonna remove all their energy, and I'm gonna win. And then in practice, you look at a Mewtwo with 2 grass on it, and you're like, oh, that's pretty good. So
Yeah, exactly.
maybe things not going so well for Nick just yet, but obviously he's had to win plenty of games to get here. So maybe he's got some tricks up his sleeve we haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah. I'm sure the deck's full of these tricks, but again, if your opponent's got such a good board presence, there's not much you can do, regardless of what tricks you have. I don't like the way that Nick's deck is really stalling here either. I'm sure that happens to every deck, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to really pick on Nick's deck at all. I'm just saying I don't like the situation he's in because his deck is stalling, and it's just putting him so far behind. And he gets 1 out of 4 heads here. A little strange for him, but it's all right. He gets the shimmy that he needed, and hopefully he's going to be able to pull off the attack that's going to put him at least in a position where he can knock out the first Mewtwo. And his opponent doesn't have a Mewtwo in play yet, a second Mewtwo anyways. So who knows? Maybe this Mewtwo can survive again.
Yeah, I think he's going to be going for a big Shaman and Super Scoop Up this turn. Obviously, that's really risky because you can get Tails on the Super Scoop Up, so maybe he's got to switch. But I'm sure he's going to be moving all his energy off this turn. I can't see him just attacking with Kyurem EX this turn because it'll just get knocked out. And he did grab that Shaman, so here we go. And yeah, he's going to move it to the Mewtwo without the EXP share. Really smart, so then he can save the energy when it does get knocked out.
Yeah, that was a very good play by him. Decided to bench his other Mewtwo because he had the open spot, and he saves his EXP share, which is really going to be able to help him pull through against an opponent's attacking Mewtwo if his opponent can actually get a Mewtwo in this turn.
Yeah, the unfortunate part for him is really everything is going in Dylan's favor. He had the prize lead. If he can respond with an X-Ball this turn, I mean, he's going to go down to 2 prizes, and then what does Nick do from there? It's just not a pretty spot for him. Dylan just got those first 2 prizes, and Nick's deck was pretty slow. And then you start getting into a Mewtwo war, and really your Pokemon aren't that strong against Mewtwo. And especially Mewtwo versus Mewtwo, you don't survive very long. So Nick's whole deck theory of outlasting your opponent, getting rid of their energy, and just having giant Pokemon that don't die, it's not going to work out in this spot.
Yeah, we see the dual ball off of Dylan, luckily getting 1 heads here, and that's the only flip he actually needed. He's going to be able to get his Mewtwo, return KO with thanks to his Force Breath. Well, assuming it draws an energy, and that's going to put Nick in a tough spot. He's going to be at 2 prizes, which means that if he can just get 1 more Mewtwo knockout on his opponent's final Mewtwo, then he's going to be able to win this game and set it off to game 3.
Ooh, I don't think Dylan got an energy though, so this is actually still scary for him.
Energy retrieval. There we go.
Alright, he's got an energy retrieval, so never mind, not scary at all. Energy retrieval is a pretty good card in this deck, and that will allow him to take the next 2 prizes. And now if you're Nick, you're probably not feeling good about your odds.
What I find interesting right now is that his and obviously not to be a rules lawyer, I didn't know that you could actually do this, which is he can send his Mewtwo all the way to the discard pile and then fetch the energies with the EXP share. Luckily, that's not a big deal. I just always assumed that the energies had to go into play before the Pokemon hit the discard pile.
I don't know how it works exactly, but I mean, Dylan's not gonna call him out on it. I mean, I think it would be fine as long as you just didn't do anything before you move the energy. Like, if you promoted your Pokemon first, that would be a problem. But he didn't proceed with the game at all. He just...
Good.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I like that. And we see one heads off of the dual ball, and that finds him the Smeargle, which has been absent for this entire game. Little does he know that it's the best attacker in the game. So the Smeargle does come into play, and he
I
has
don't
a
know.
Sky
Shaman's
Arrow
pretty good
pitch.
too.
No, come on, man. It doesn't even start to compare to Smeargle. Don't be silly.
Shaman
So,
and Smeargle in a one-on-one fight? I think Shaman wins.
are you kidding me? I'll pit I'll pit your Shaman against Pram Smeargle, and we'll see who wins. All right.
Well, it depends on who attacks first.
Exactly. Your Shaman against Pram Smeargle.
All right. Yeah, I'll give him that one.
All right, so we see the Shaman. We see actually the Smeargle come into play. The fact that Skyro Bridge is in the field means that he can retreat for the Smeargle in Portrait here, which could potentially give him a brand new hand, and then all he needs is a switch.
Yeah. For Nick, if he wants to knock out Mewtwo this turn, he's gonna need a double colorless on his Mewtwo, and then he's just wide open for Dylan to respond with his own. So it's gonna be a risk no matter what he does. Also, there's that Kyurem EX with 80 damage on the bench. That's a pretty big liability. If Dylan were just able to get a Shaman EX out, or a double plus power with Tornadus, and then catcher out that thing, that's just two prizes begging to be taken. So really,
We see a Junk Arm. Is he going to go for the Super Scoop up here, or just a safe switch?
it's
All
like
right,
a
goes for the
switch.
safe switch. Okay.
But really, there's just a ton of big targets on Nick's bench.
And I say safe switch, but I guess it's not actually all that safe because now he's relying on his opponent to have something big here, and he doesn't actually have anything. I don't think.
He's got an N.
Okay, there's an N, which is going to move him down to 4 cards and his opponent down to 2, which is actually extremely good. If he can knock out this Mewtwo, then he's going to be in a great spot here because his opponent's going to be down to a 2-card hand.
Yeah, this could actually be very, very big, but let's be real about it. He needs a double colorless or an energy and a plus power. Otherwise, this Mewtwo is not getting knocked out this turn. And if he doesn't get that, I don't even know what he would do instead. He'd probably just have to promote Terrakion and pass, which that's not going to go very well for him. So really it comes down to what he draws here. If he doesn't draw a way to knock out one of Dylan's Pokemon this turn, I think he's going to lose this game.
We'll have to see what Nick top deck here. And we see a Super Scoop Up, which is a big card. Gets heads, gets rid of that Kyurem EX with all that damage on it, which is going to put him in a nicer spot. But again, that Mewtwo's got a big target on his forehead now because it's easily knocked out of his opponent. Has a Pokemon catcher and I guess a double colorless as well. But
Yeah, I can't quite see what's in Nick's hand, but if he can't get a knockout with Mewtwo, I think the much better play would have been to super scoop up the Shaman,
yeah,
move all the energy to Mewtwo, and it looks like, yeah, he's really got nothing this turn.
yeah. Wow. He's gonna pass here before retreating. I don't know. We'll have to see.
So
You're absolutely right.
yeah.
I would have liked to see him get rid of it or get a new celebration wind, but he decided not to do that. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and now the ball is definitely in Dylan's court. He has pretty much everything he could want. He's going to be ahead probably 3 prizes by the end of this turn. And Nick doesn't have a whole lot going for him. I don't even know why he put an energy on that bench to Kyurem EX. That's kind of confusing to me also. He's got 1 energy on each of his attackers. And all of his attackers take more than 1 energy, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, that's correct. We see a Junkrat and a Terrakion in his hand, which means he's going to be able to Junkrat next turn. I'm not exactly sure what he's going to have available other than a Super Scoop Up, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's played Pokegear or not. That
And if he loses the Shaman here, then, I mean, even Super Scoop Up.
looks like there was a
options
Pokegear
gone.
in there, so
Okay.
Dylan will
So we see
decide
an
to
N.
end.
All right. So that N off of Dylan is going to give Nick a new hand of 4, which gives him a few more options.
So
But most importantly, you were saying?
Dylan decided to retreat to his Smeargle, and then he plays the N. He put a double colorless on the Tornadus. I don't really know what he's trying to accomplish this turn. He won't be able to even attack unless he has a switch. So maybe he's just kind of accepting the fact that he doesn't want to attack until Nick brings up his Mewtwo. He doesn't want to go down to one prize because he fears that one card ends so much. So, really interesting play here. Just being content with setting up Smeargle and pretty much passing the turn.
I just don't know if I agree with that because he leaves his Mewtwo open. Obviously, it's going to take a lot of resources off of from Nick to be able to pull this off, but it's very possible. We do see a Junk Arm off of Nick, which means he's going to be able to use his Pokegear.
Well, it depends on what else he drew. He did get a fresh hand of 4, so maybe he got a supporter in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he gets rid of an N and something else.
It's like another Junk Arm.
Correct. So he's going to be able to use his Pokemon Catcher. Catcher's up a Tornadus, which, again, is strange to me, but okay, we see a double colorless here. I don't know if I like his line here. I would have liked to see that Junk Arm come have a better use here.
Yeah, he's just going to target down the Tornadus with all the energy on it. And maybe he's trying to bait Dylan into attacking with Mewtwo first. I don't know what the line of thinking is here. Maybe he just wanted to target down the thing with all the energy, and Dylan looks like he whiffed on his Pokegear, so that could be a pretty big deal if he doesn't have another supporter in his hand.
That's correct. This is actually turning into a really interesting game, man.
Getting scrappy.
Yeah, that's exactly the word I had in mind. I'm gonna be really interested in seeing what line they each take here because this really tells a lot about a player. Like for example here.
So Nick's one card happened to be a Juniper, which Dylan got to Portrait. He actually switched into Portrait, so he can use a supporter still. He can retreat still. He's got all of his options open. This could be a huge turn for him. This could be the nail in the coffin for Nick if Dylan draws everything he needs.
Yeah, that was as fortunate as it looks to have a Juniper in your hand there. That's actually a really bad spot for him. The Juniper is the last card I think he would have liked to have in his hand right there because now his opponent can really put the nail in the coffin. We see a Junk Arm discarding 2 Grass Energies.
He's going to go for a Dual Ball, I think. He's looking for his Shaman because he's got a Grass and a Catcher in his hand, and that will win him the game if he can catcher out Nick's Mewtwo.
That's good. Does find the Shaman, and that should be it. That should be game here.
I think so. So the one heads on Dual Ball, that'll do it for him. He gets the 4 energy on the Mewtwo, and there we go. X-Ball will do 200 and wrap this game up, and we will move on to a third game.
There we go. Another handshake. Here we go. Game 3.
All right, so Nick's interesting deck kind of pooped out on him this game, and Dylan's deck ran pretty well. He got all of his basic energy out this game. Took a little bit of a different approach, and now we'll see if Dylan can make the complete comeback or if Nick can win the third game and see who moves on to the finals.
Like I said, here we go. Game 3. Let's do this.
All right, we'll be right back.